We are now live on our YouTube. Let me copy this link. What have you learned last week? How are you able to apply what you've been listening to? Have you applied it? Have you recognized anything? And understood anything about yourselves?
Yes, definitely understood sometimes you don't even realize you're thinking certain things until you actually realize it. And then you can shift your focus and be more directional and totally, completely flip your energy.
So what's helped you to become more, let me see here. So what's helped you to become more aware of your energy and flipping it?
I would say the meditations for sure. Like they're subtle in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
That's been really cool. The intervention for sure, you can really see how you can step in and out of being in your spirit and not just being in your body.
Yeah.
That definitely is incredible. And then that last exercise that we did, the writing the pages that we had last week,
Mm-hmm.
that that I think is really kind of like just pushed me over kind of to the understanding even more the actual root beliefs without even knowing that you had root beliefs, and how you can if you really find the meaning of the words, not the ones that what you think they mean, but what they actually mean to you and your family, and then be able to find the correct word to kind of, I don't know if you could say nullify, or just have the more positive, or like a higher vibrational um, something, a word or words that you can then use to shift yourself out of that energetic vibration that isn't even yours, really.
Very good. So by identifying those keywords, we had everyone do a practice, and hopefully you guys have been following along and follow the practice. It's really about identifying the keywords that are literally holding you back. And when you can fine tune and find those keywords or really key emotions and impacts that are in the blood, they're in the body from prior programming, from prior history, and we can identify the feeling and the words associated, you can literally begin to deprogram those areas. And by replacing them with the opposite word and continue to reason and vibrate with it, you begin to annihilate those things, those resistance. The resistance has been holding you back. The resistance in the energy field of which you are part of. And it's so important to understand that resistance in the field of which you are part of, because it's literally you. When you move out into reality, you're moving into the old reasoning factors. What you're seeing today is not a product of just things. What you see today is a product of prior way of thinking. What you're seeing is old habits, behaviors, your perception, perceptualization of yourself, from yourself to yourself, and the belief systems. A lot of people do not really understand that you're not who you think you are. You're who you think you're not. You're not who you think you are. You're who you think you're not. That belief system in the background has been controlling your behavior for how long? It's It's not who you think you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. If you don't think you're capable of going beyond and doing things, your perception does not change. And if the perception does not change, your behavior doesn't change. And your habits stay more or less the same. Belief system is the making and breaking of people. Not just you, everyone. Everybody has the beliefs that are holding them back in some area, some part of their life, and it's controlling them. And when you don't change the belief, you don't change your perception. Your perceptions don't change, your behaviors don't change, and you keep moving around doing the same thing over and over again. Really take a look at what's holding you back. There's several times I've looked at what's holding me back. Why? Because I know that there's so much more. And every time I learn more about myself and I deprogram, I go another step further. I learn more about myself by deprogramming, and I go another step further. What I'm learning is how to deprogram, declassify areas, bring them to life, look at them, see them, understand what it is that is determining my outlook in life, the outlook about myself, and what I'm capable of being, of doing. The more we can go inside, the more we can rearrange what's happening outside. Outside, circumstances and conditions are truly just the expression of prior belief systems that we hold on to.
Can I just add that it's like a daily, multiple times a day practice? It's not just like one and done. So I've been for the last 3 weeks, every day, twice a day, the meditation, 2 times, maybe 3 times the intervention. And now since really getting my mind around it, since Sunday, Monday, it's been like auto-suggestion to myself as often as I can remember, or if I'm walking around, I think about it, or really taking time in my day to stop and think about it quietly and start changing the mental chatter.
Oh, yes, most definitely. And it's very important everybody understand this. It's literally an all-day thing. Because when you're not recreating reality, you're going in the opposite direction. When you're not consistently choosing what you want to think, how you want to feel, you're literally going in the opposite direction. So yeah, it's a consistent thing. And majority of the people are really not consistently altering their paradigms, consciously, consistently altering themselves. And that's exactly what you're going to have to do. This practice is not for the weak of mind. This practice is for the individuals that truly want to go beyond who they are and recreate reality. I had to literally have a burning desire to not want to be myself and not be that self all day long. I did not want to go back to who that person was. So I had to literally cause my body to act and behave as it never would, consistently, until the old person you were is no longer existent. And we do that through setting goals, through understanding the mind, by giving yourself a command and doing it, by having a plan, by having goals with dates, and objectively taking the actions that my nervous system is not going to want to do. It is natural to have your nervous system conflict, not wanting to do the things that you know would improve your life. Why? Because your nervous system is literally charged with the opposite feeling, with the opposite memories and habits. You're going to need to literally train your body to act and behave as it never would. The nervous system is dual. One system, known as a sympathetic, is the channel for all those activities which are not consciously directed by volition, such as the operation of the digestive organs, the repair of the daily wear and tear of the tissues, and the everything else, lungs, heart, the way you think, the way you see things, the way you see yourself in the mirror. Everything is literally being controlled by an alternate system of who you think you are, who you think you're not, what you think is possible. And until you can be the observer the observed, and the actor all at the same time and know that you're none of them. You can view the world from 0 point. I'm none of those things. When you can view the world and really look at yourself in the mirror, look at yourself as you walk and talk, look at yourself as you're communicating with people, to be able to step out and review who am I acting and behaving like, you're never going to know yourself. You're never going to know yourself. And all teachers, we've always heard, know thyself. Well, the self is actually selfless. When you can move into selfless acts, selfish acts are the acting and control of who you think you are. Being selfish is actually not wanting to let go of all your programming, of all your beliefs, of all your thoughts about yourself. That's being selfish. Selfless is becoming one with this infinite power. You're no longer the ego. You're no longer a program. You're no longer the things from the past. You're no longer the follies from the past. You're no longer the relationships from the past. When you can go to be nobody, no thing, nowhere, you move into everything that's possible. This is where we're going. We're talking about making the impossible possible. And you got to literally think from that place. The other system, known as the voluntary or cerebral spinal system, is the channel through which we receive conscious perception from the physical senses and exercise control over the movements of the body. This system has its center in the brain, while the other has its center in the ganglionic mass at the back of the stomach, known as the solar plexus, and sometimes spoken of as the abdominal brain. The cerebral spinal system is the channel of our volitional or conscious mental action, and the sympathetic system is the channel of that mental action which unconsciously supports the vital functions of the body. Thus, the cerebral spinal system is the organ of the conscious mind, and the sympathetic is that of the subconscious mind. But the interaction of conscious and subconscious minds requires a similar interaction between corresponding systems of nerves, and one of the conspicuous connection by which this is provided as the vagus nerve. This nerve passes out of the cerebral region as a portion of the voluntary system, and through it we control the vocal organs. Then it passes onward to the thorax, sending out branches to the heart and lungs. And finally, passing through the diaphragm, it loses the outer coating, which distinguishes the nerves of the voluntary system and becomes identified with those of the sympathetic system, so forming a connecting link between the two and making the man physically and a single entity. Similarly, different areas of the brain indicate the connection with the objective and subjective activities of the mind, respectively, and speaking in a general way, we may assign the frontal portion of the brain to the former and the posterior portion to the latter, while the intermediate portion partakes of the character of both. So here we see that we are dually thinking, analyzing, reviewing from different sections of the body, interior, exterior, and then everything in between. This is why sometimes you'll feel a deep connection in your lower abdominal. Something says, well, something's going on. Something makes you feel like, I need to step back and look at what I'm doing. Or maybe you may feel fear, doubt, worry. Your emotions are in your gut. Personal, professional, all these emotions are inside of you. And when you're not in control, they control your behavior. Majority of the time, people don't even know what's going on. We need to understand that if what you want is on the other side of a different reality, you literally need to change everything that you do. You have to self-suggest, auto-suggest your way into a new reality. And majority of people are not prepared to do that because they're not aware of how they think. Why do we teach these classes? Every day we're repeating different lessons on consciousness, on controlling your thought, reprogramming, so that you become more aware of who you are, who you're not, and who you really want to become. Without the teachings that you're going through the day, you're literally just walking right back into your own train of thought, and that's the problem. Everybody thinks that they're thinking, but the truth is that they're not. What's thinking is a mental program. We teach the classes every morning. Reset, mindset, reset every day. And then you have to literally mindset reset all day long after that. When you're not mindset resetting, when you're not objectively reviewing, subjectively controlling, chances are you're going in the wrong direction all day long, even though you think you're thinking. I want to open this up. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, takeaways? If not, I'm going to play a couple of minutes of this. Give me 1 second here.
Page 50, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph down. Now, we're talking here about paradigms and about building a new image. I think you're going to like what we're going into here. On this one paragraph, it says, understand that images are mental pictures and are made from thoughts. And the magnificence of the mind lies in the fact that it can think.
Images are pictures and they're mental thought, and we think in images. And the key is here that we can think. As you think, you're thinking from your self-image. And we think in pictures. So every time you go to think, if you're thinking from the normal way of patterning thoughts, chances are you're going to go in the wrong direction. When you're imagining of how to create something, when you're imagining and controlling the thought to go beyond what you know, and you're working back to where you're at, now you're going beyond the known. The old way of thinking is going to take you right back on plan to do what you were doing last. We've got to get into the point where we can imagine reality and live from that state. If you can imagine reality and think back to where you're at, you're going to begin to receive ideas from beyond what you've known. And this is the key to success. It's about receiving new ideas, new actions, new thoughts of how you're going to impress those new ideas, actions, and thoughts, and then you're going to act them out throughout your day. You've got to literally go beyond. You're going to have to go beyond your normal patterning way of thinking. And that's why it's important to surround yourself with other people that are not at the same level that you are at. You've got to literally surround yourself with people that are beyond what you know. If you keep associating with yourself with the same people, you're going to go in the same direction because they pattern thoughts in the same manner. Learning from somebody that knows how to pattern or rearrange patterns, to use their imagination, will begin to get a different form of thinking. And that's what you need. We are literally a broadcasting and receiving station. But if you're normally tuned into FM tones to the same station, you're going to get the same idea, same thoughts. Awakening your imagination to think from the future to the present and allowing yourself to receive the intuition, the receiving set of that information, to keep that connection going is one of the largest keys to success. We were reading the other day on Gates. Gates would sit for ideas. They would pay him for ideas. He had the ability to sit down, take any idea, any issue, sit down and begin to imagine, get into a hypnotic state and be able to receive information from the field of what to do next. And we're talking about professionals. They would literally receive the ideas of what to do next. They would pay them to do that. They would go off and do it, and they'd get the results they wanted. We have more abilities within ourselves than we're aware of. We don't use them because we don't know about them. We don't know how to apply them. How do we induce this state? Well, you've got to get really calm, relaxed. You got to become self-aware. One, that your way's not working. When you first become aware that your way's not working, and be willing and open for change. And then finding the people that have the correct information. Calm down, relax, open your mind that anything is possible. And then begin to imagine exactly what you want and what you want to experience. You got to know what that goal is, what that vision is. What does it cost? What does it generate? What do you generate? How much do you earn? Allow yourself to think and imagine with freedom. As you begin to think and imagine with freedom, you move into this thought trip. You move into it. Allow yourself to receive. Think back from where you're at to where you want to go. See yourself where you're at in the future. Walk around in the state. Make your 2D image 3D. Bring it to life. Hear, see, taste, touch, smell with your senses in your vision. See yourself. Hear yourself. What are you doing? How do you do it? And then move back in time to where you're at. And you start to think, how do I go about moving there? What do I need to do today that would alter reality and move me into that reality? When you start to think of what do I need to do today? Who do I need to become? You're going to start receiving intuitively, receiving downloads of what ideas you could put into place today. When you start to receive the ideas of what you need to do right now to align yourself with the reality that would shift you like that, just like that, you can literally put those actions into place today. And you can begin to rearrange reality as you see it. But if you don't take the actions, the visions that you're seeing, if you don't commit, you're going to go right back to what you know. The mind is so subtle. The mind will pull you right back on plan. When we don't have order, when we don't have a vision, when we don't know where we're going and what to do next, the same mind will quickly and automatically go back to what it knows. And guess where you're going? Same place. Ricardo?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody. Hi, buddy. Tell me.
Let's go into, I know it's just gonna, I don't want to dive too much into the nervous system, but if we can hit maybe a couple of the highlights, bullet points on how the mind, or our mind, our mind, has many minds in it, directing us, controlling our behavior all at the same time.
As always, very easy questions. Okay.
Try to grab the largest pocket of it.
Yeah. I just saw a couple of things as you were talking. You see, I mean, you can look at it as a challenge we all have. You can also look at it as a problem we all have.
And by the way,
yes.
Dr. Ricardo, he's a neuroscientist, 50 plus years in neuroscience, 30 years in neurofeedback, 30 plus years in transcendental meditation.
Yeah, thank you. I guess the white hair works for something, isn't it? Okay, so let's see. Let me put myself here, visual. Here, that's the white hair, you see? The evidence. Okay, let's see. Yeah, well, we have a mind different from the brain, okay? And we have a body different from the brain. So you got body, brain, and mind. And then there's a fourth element, consciousness, right? And we are in the middle of all those four, right in the middle. So we are a fourth entity, different one. Okay, and we interact. We are born inside our
Repeat that
mind. So,
again. I want everybody to listen.
yeah,
We
okay.
are fourth what?
We are the fourth phenomenon.
The fourth
We are.
phenomenon.
Yeah, all of us are a phenomenon. We are emitted from the deepest core of the mind. We are literally spawned inside our mind. The mind is there. It's not the same thing as the brain. Please distinguish that. Most of my colleagues do not distinguish that difference. They don't. And they still write books, and they bestseller books, and in the same paragraph they use the word consciousness, mind, and brain as if they were synonyms. They are not. They are not. Okay? So you got a consciousness, you got consciousness as a phenomenon, you got a mind, the mind as a phenomenon, you got the brain as a phenomenon, and the brain is constantly interacting with the body, and the body is constantly sending feedback to the brain. So you see, you have a molecular machinery there in place.
Interfacing each other.
Oh, constantly, in every experience, it is constantly doing that. Constantly, okay? So we treat brain and body as one. It's called a molecular machinery for now, for this moment, okay? So you got the brain, you got the mind, you got consciousness, and then there's us. And we are the fourth phenomenon. Literally, Carla, who is not her name, Angelo, who is not his name, we are the fourth phenomenon. So what are we behind the name? You see what I'm saying? When you were born, you did not respond to the name Carla. You did not respond to the name Abraham. You didn't. But with experience, the brain starts saying, hey, there's some pattern here that's consistent. They're repeating this weird sound to me. So I guess it has something to do with me. See, that kind of thing is happening. It's called conditioning. And it is unavoidable. It has to be done. Okay? So out of interacting with a sound that somebody tells us and calls us all the time, attention starts turning towards where the sound comes from. No, so now you got a name. You see? Yeah, but Carla is not her name. You see? Angelo is not his name. Veronica, Marilu, they are not their name. No, not at all. Please remember that. Okay? So if you don't remember that, if you forget that, then you, who is not the brain, you who are not your name, you who are not a word, you will allow the words to tell you who you are, instead of you telling the words who you are.
And that right there is literally, let's say this mechanism is just operating all day long. When you don't know who you are, you're going to be everything that you think you're not. That's going to be all the ideas that you've been programmed with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all the resistance. Everything that you're going to find in life as a resistance is going to be everything that you think that you're not. I'm not capable.
Yep. All of that. Let's put that. I'm not sufficient. I'm insufficient. I am inadequate. I am incompetent. That's there, ingrained in us. Okay? And everything you do not know about yourself has become information in what's called the subconscious activity of the brain. It becomes subconscious. You see? It is available. It could be available if you're interested.
If
That's the operating word. That's the operating word.
if you're interested in changing yourself.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing, as Abraham so aptly put it before I was listening, I was writing to what he says, is if you're interested, okay, please note this, it's not a New Year's resolution. Oh, yeah, I'm interested. And then you forget you said it. Because it's not a matter of saying it. It's a matter of committing yourself to the phenomenon itself. So
of the interaction, but listen to this. The interaction of what all day long?
I don't know what
Changing
you,
yourself,
excuse me?
of changing yourself all day long.
Yeah,
It's
you have to commit
to be
yourself to that.
interested enough to change yourself all day long, because you're going to have to literally interfere in between your spiritual side of your nature, that fourth phenomena, the mind, the body, the brain, and everything in between it. If you're interested in change, you've got to literally be awake in imagination between all states. I'll let you take over from there.
Okay. That implies that it is not a resolution, it's a decision. And it is not a one-time decision. It's a decision you have to make every second. Because that's the scale at which phenomena occur. You are the child. You're the child of every second. You, literally. And the brain is wired to be able to sustain that every second. Attention works every second. It is due to that attention can actually, you may be driving, thinking, pondering about many things, but suddenly something completely spontaneous and unthought of happens in front of your car, and attention can save your life. And most of the times it will, because it works at the millisecond level. At the very same level, you don't have to be in front of an emergency so that the brain will immediately react and save your life. You don't have to get to that extreme. No, you can work, instead of working with just emergencies to be able to respond or to react, you can work with urgencies. It is not the same thing. Come on, distinguish. Emergency is born out of the brain, especially the subcortical brain, okay, which contributes a lot of information for your subconscious. But urgency is born in your mind. And just in any other region of the mind. No, only in the heart of the mind, the one that is profoundly connected to consciousness. This is where urgency comes from.
What is that urgency?
Urgency, look at the word, it comes from Latin urgos plus sia, which means the condition of work. It is constantly pushing on you to work on yourself. Urgency.
That
Yeah.
urge.
Yeah, beautiful.
That urge, that wanting, knowing what. In between that urge, that wanting and knowing, is literally the spiritual nature from a lower consciousness to a higher consciousness, from a lower, and it's fluctuating. What is it? You're fluctuating all day long from a wave to a particle. What is the urgency? The urgency of going beyond what you know. Don't go beyond. Go beyond. So it's literally a feedback mechanism from itself to itself, from the known to the unknown, from the known to the unknown, from the known to the unknown. But the key here is that known is conscious and that unknown is conscious at the same time.
Yeah, indeed. And when it wasn't allowed to be in the world in its own terms, because that's what it's all about, to be in the world in your terms, then it became subconscious.
So let's stop right there. To be okay to be in the world with your own terms. That means that as a child from 0 to 5, 0 to 7, it's not being controlled behavior. It's allowance to think, allowance to imagine, allowance to create. But
Yeah.
parents, we're not taught that if we don't let the child the allowance to have a folly and say, that's okay, do we learn something better? To have a folly and say, well, you made the decision. What other decision would you like? So that they begin to think beyond what they hear, see, taste, touch, and smell. Mm-hmm. They're literally, their mind born free. They'll pick up ideas and pick up things faster than you will normally, because a child is not limited to all the follies and failures and the condemnments that we've been already breeded into, control mechanisms. So that allowance to move back to the urgency of going beyond what you know, and then imagine.
Yeah. There's so many points you're pointing out, man. There's just so many points. Each of them we can stop and make a book full of that point. Darn. Yeah. Let's see. Going back to the brain, okay? Especially the subcortical brain. That subcortical brain, there's about 560 different nuclei working there. They all do their job to make sure that you survive your circumstances. That's what they are there for. Subcortical nuclei, more than 560 of them, are in charge of making sure that you survive your circumstances. Okay? And in there's all kinds of mechanisms which take more than 516 nuclei to actually work. And they have a lot of experience surviving. They've been there, they've been generated, produced for 3 million years 3 billion years, sorry, in this planet. So they have a lot of experience surviving. And we got them all. We have them all of you, all of us between our own ears, they're there. And one of the mechanisms in there is pleasure pain. So pleasure and pain are actually chemicals. They are chemicals. Okay? You feel the sensation. You live the sensation of the chemical when it appears. Okay? So you think that sensation is you. No, no, no. That sensation comes from a chemical in your body that is telling you is telling the body, hey, repeat this experience because it's worthwhile. That is pleasure. Pleasure increases the possibilities of repeating the experience you just had that gave you that moved into circulation all that chemistry. So it increases the possibility of repeating the action. That is called pleasure. And it's got all kinds of subcortical things, but it doesn't go into that. But then you've got the other one that says, hey, no, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't repeat it. You got to extinguish that behavior. Don't do it. So that is pain. That's a function of pain, to extinguish the behavior that caused it. You see? So you got both of them, and both have a function to increase the possibilities of your survival. You see, that's the function of it. But the mind can get a hold of that because you who are born in your mind must come into the world through your brain. You have to. And when you do that, you find the brain offering you all these services by which you have to abide. You have to abide by them. You see? And then all the stuff that happens in your brain as you're abiding by pleasure and pain, you come out into the world as two things. There are two things that are publicly observable. The brain produces for you, and they're publicly observable. They emit it. They're yields of the brain. What you do and what you say. That's it. Nothing else is publicly observable about you. What you do and what you say. That's it. There's nothing else. But with what you do and what you say, man, can you do a lot of stuff.
If you're aware.
With what you do. And behind that, I'm just talking about what the brain yields. But behind that is, are you paying attention to what you do and what you say? That's brain. What is your intention when you do and what you say? Now, that's the brain. What is your motivation behind what you do and what you say? That's also the brain. Intention, attention, and motivation are generated only by the brain. But the mind doesn't do that. The mind allows you to be conscious. See, that's a gift we can add to attention. You can add attention to attention. You can add being conscious. So you can direct attention because you're conscious. If you're not conscious, you cannot direct anything. But if you're conscious,
you are somewhere in between all these states, and normally you're not aware.
Yeah.
So that urgency between from the wave to the particle, or allows you to become more conscious, less conscious. You're going from the unknown, where everything and anything is possible, and this is where you can receive ideas, to being conscious all the way to right between your eyes, behind your eyes, where you're normally conscious of what you hear, see, taste, touch, and smell. And normally this is where everybody normally gets stuck, because you go so far out of yourself into the unknown, which puts you into the unified field. This is where Edison worked. Einstein, these men would go into they would go beyond the known. They would go into this unified field of consciousness, and then they would zip right back to become conscious between their eyes, behind their eyes. They had the allowance. They allowed themselves to go into the non-local to the local, to play in the non-local unified field of consciousness, and then receive back intuition to make it local, to move the vision into acts, so that we can demonstrate consciousness freely on earth. The average individual does not stay there long enough. So they just zip right back to what they see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and they go back to the retrieval files in their what? In their mind's subconscious. They inject those ideas right back into their brain, body, nervous system, and they act and behave as they normally would. Do you follow me? The average individual does not stay in that unified field long enough to retrieve and receive the ideas and to organize them with their left brain and log it as new actions. The average individual zips right back to their lower consciousness and just move right back to retrieve the files of past memory. And then that's what they see, hear, taste, touch, and do again.
No, please, I'll stop here. I'll stop, Abraham. I want to stop all of you what you're listening to right now and put emphasis on one little tiny detail. Okay. Look at what Abraham has just done. He's providing a sequence of events in words. He's using words with which he's providing a sequence of events. Okay. But the sequence of events is what's behind the words. Right now, as he speaks, okay, he is manipulating the sequence of words that represent the sequence of events. You see? When you live it out, you do not, when you're living this, you're not manipulating any sequence of words. You're manipulating the events themselves. Notice the difference. It's very subtle, but very powerful. So what Abraham has done is he's exposed to you a sequence of words, and there are connectors connecting each word in the sequence. Okay? Those connectors are called logic. So he's using a logic to connect words in the sequence. I can give the same words to Carla, but she'll use a different logic to connect them. And sometimes she will be forced to change the sequence of words because of her logic. You see what I'm saying here? It's so elegant. No? What nature is so elegant. Okay? And then pulling together all these words in sequence and maintaining that sequence with the right connectors, which is called logic, okay, gives you the opportunity to take that and look into yourself, to discover that there's a pattern in nature living right inside of you. And you have access to that, as he has access to it. The difference is that he has access to it, and he's made all his yields based on that, all his fortune based on that. You see, and you want the same for yourself. But he's not talking alien here. He is describing something that is already there in you. What it requires from you is to recognize, oh, yeah, oh my God, he's describing me. But when you are left alone and we're no longer there, now you're left alone with yourself. So, what the hell was that? What was the first step? What was the second step?
Okay. That's where you need to step in. Exactly right.
Okay. You see, that's what it's all about. We are providing a map of your territory. But since the map is isomorphic, what does that mean? An isomorphic map means that every point in the map corresponds to every point in the territory. So when I speak about the map without knowing your territory, but since every point is corresponding to your territory, then I start moving the concepts and the words and the events in the map themselves. You find yourself described because every point in the map corresponds to every point in the territory. But the territory is out there. The territory is inside Carla. The territory is inside Angelo. But
and
the map,
look at that urgency.
Okay.
That urgency is independent upon your nature of thought. That urgency could be, I got to get up and move right into my program. It could be conscious at that level. Right now, Ricardo was talking about how we're giving you a format or a pattern plan that you can use. But if your consciousness goes back to the urgency, I've got to be the janitor this morning again, and it goes right back into plan. The urgency, the control factor is the image that you're the janitor.
Yeah, of all the I mean, in Spanish, let's say it's something like that. In Spanish, there are about 94,000 words. In English, it's almost double. Okay? And of all the words you have in any language, there's one verb of all those words, there's one verb that is the most important of all of them. One verb. But there are two nouns that are the most important of all of them. Two nouns. They're important because they are the basis of everything else you can do with language. That's how important they are. What is the verb that is most important of all the words in any language? The verb being. It underlines everything. Being. You see? And the next verb that is also as important as being is becoming. Everything else just pivots around those two.
And if we can point it down for you guys, the urgency would be your contribution. A lot of people didn't know it.
Yeah, very true.
Right now,
Very true.
the centering effect in your life is always going to be your contribution to the world. How do you contribute that vital life force, your spirit? What is this contribution in nature throughout the day? If it's a janitor, you move right into form and you attract what? Cleaning offices, cleaning things. If the urgency, you find it, which is your centering effect, how do you move out into the world? What is the control form that controls you all day long? You're always going to find that it's money is the result of a centering effect. Money was the result of a centering and to become a doctor. That's the urgency. Then he attracts sick clients. It was I'm an attorney. So the urgency, because he needs money. We all need money to experience life. Money is a byproduct. The money centers you in your urgency. So if the urgency is I'm an attorney, then you attract people that need attorneys to protect them in law, whatever it is. If your urgency is I'm a dishwasher, you will go find dishes in a restaurant. If your urgency is I am a chef, you attract that scenario. So you will always find your urgency in the service that you provide all day long. Your urgency could be, I'm a value creator and I create value. So my urgency is in creating products and services for other people. So his urgency is I'm an entrepreneur and I create services and other people go to work. I create products. The products go to work. And the trade is the money. The service is the products. It's not his body. It's other people's time, other people's money. He creates a model that works for him. And he's now free. Two ways to live reality. There's three, but you'll find two and one go together. The one that almost everybody uses, and that's the control factor. They value production. So the urgency is in value production. So that's where they trade their time for money. That's a salary or an hourly wage. The urgency draws you in. Why does that urgency draw you in? Because your root's being activated because you need to survive. You guys are getting a valuable knowledge. I mean, a lot. The urgency is in your root. You've got to survive. So then you pick a contribution to serve the world. You're going to find a triangle here. You're going to find the control factor in each area. The urgency moves in action. You chose a contribution, and then you walk through that contribution all day long. A lot of people will stay in the contribution. They'll stay stuck in the same model their whole life. In one strategy, value production, time for money. 95% of people are stuck in that strategy. 95, 97 fall in that in one strategy, time for money. Their whole life is a cycle. And then the urge, they can never get out of it. That urgency controls their hours all day long.
So you're calling trade my time for money, you call that value production?
Yeah.
What are the other two you were talking about?
The second one is going to be you invest money to earn money.
And the third one?
The way you earn money is time for money. They value production. Number two, they value creation. But they use money to earn money. You trade money to earn money. And the top one is multiple streams of income, multiple sources of income. These people value creation, and only 3%, 2 to 3% live here.
So in all three, you're using your body in different ways.
Correct. Well, you're using the spirit, mind, body in different ways.
Mm.
But the other one is freedom. The last one is freedom. The last one is, and the second one, they're both freedom. But you're going to create values, products, services, that trades. That ends up becoming the trade. Because you can pull out of it and it still continues to trade all day long. It's not your body. It's the value, products, or services that's trading, which creates freedom. But the urge, depending on who you were raised around, the urgency to move you into action is normally what you've known. Contribution always centers you. The contribution you do always centers you. It's a centering effect. And it places you to be surrounded by that urge. And the urge was, to start off with, was survival. If the urge was just survival, you found a job. If the urge was freedom, you're going to have to end up moving to this different strategy, which is value creation. If it's survive, you're just going to find a job that's good enough. And you're going to find that you're always time for money.
Would you say that the distinction you just made between urgency as freedom versus urgency as survival, would that be akin to urgency as survival is a matter of making a living, whereas urgency as freedom is a matter of making your life?
Correct. Creating your own life. Not to be controlled or consumed by anything.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I see. That's a beautiful distinction. Very powerful one.
I saw we're at our time here. We're going to close the call off. Thank you guys that are here. Go back and rewind. Look it over and over and over again, because you're going to watch this and you're going to get it. Oh, I understand. No, you didn't. You don't understand a thing until you can repeat it often enough that you can express it in behavior. And that's how powerful the mind is. That's how well programmed we are. You do not understand a thing until you can express a behavior. If you find all day long you are not expressing what I'm teaching, it's because you're not programmed to get the results yet. It's through constant spaced repetition that somebody begins to become coherent enough to intervene in their brain and body all day long enough to alter the sequence of events. Thank you guys and have a wonderful day. And we are at 7:05. Ricardo?
Yep. Tim?
Yep.